An Australia without rugby league is not Australia. Rugby league has been a fabric of our society for hundreds of years. It's people's escape, it's people's relaxation, and we need to do everything in order to continue that great tradition of rugby league.
It has been those Australians who have worked hard every day. They have their dreams, they have their aspirations. These are the quiet Australians who have won a great victory tonight.
Rugby league is like trying to grab the tail of one of those little skinks. And every week you think you've got a handle on it, and then it just suddenly, it's off and running, and it's not even rugby league anymore. It's something new this week.
And it sits there twitching and twirling.
I've automatically got a question because I have been watching season 1 of the Beverly Hillbillies.
How good is that? Who's your favourite, Ellie Mae or Jethro?
I've always been a Jethro guy.
Jethro.
But Ellie Mae, her ease with which she operates with all the critters,
yes,
right?
The critters.
and of course, she has a potential suitor, and Jed points out that maybe handing her pet skunk to the suitor is not a particularly good move.
She doesn't. She's perplexed, right?
That's right.
What's wrong with him?
I don't understand. And then it's the final episode of the first season where the butler driver of the rich little kid who's at primary school with Jethro comes for a visit, and this guy is like, "Oh, I've got to disinfect everything," and he's spraying the disinfecting towards the skunk, and Jed goes, "That mightn't be a good idea." What's the difference between a skink and a skunk?
Well, a lot. A skink is a tiny little lizard. It's a cold-blooded lizard.
A skunk is a mammal.
Right.
Yes.
Boy, where do we start? They're like a whole different orders. They're a whole different
They both have
class.
eyes.
But the skink is a skink like a salamander that walks or something?
No, it's just a lizard.
It's a tiny lizard.
It's a small lizard.
Your garden lizard, your standard garden lizard.
Right,
yeah.
right. But it's big enough for you to grab the tail.
Not really.
I didn't think so.
They can go from, a couple of inches long to 3 or 4
But
inches
you pick
long.
it up with
The
your 2
golden
fingers
skink.
as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then suddenly you've got a tail in your hand.
I was so jealous of kids living in Sydney because we didn't have skinks in Canberra.
Okay.
We didn't get them. The golden
we
skink is
got lots
so
of-
common.
Yeah, and spiders.
Blue tongue
Funnel
was
webs.
Well, we don't get funnel webs in Canberra, no.
Don't you?
It's too
Right.
high. Yeah.
Right.
Blue tongue was the big deal. Like a blue
Yeah,
tongue.
blue
yeah.
tongues.
That's
They
the
were your
top weight.
pets, yeah.
It's terrific.
Yeah.
And they eat your snails as well. They eat the snails off your lettuce. You want the blue tongue in the veggie
You love the
garden.
blue tongue.
Great,
Beautiful animal.
great.
My daughter had a pet lizard, and I think she was away at the time, and it was unwell. And my partner and I were on the round the clock trying to keep the environment going. And anyway,
Anyway, rugby league. It's a new beast every week. And
Speaking
look,
of rugby league.
there's a whole lot of things that have changed. The landscape has completely changed. But we're all pretty happy here, except for Pat over there, as I believe your team won, my team won.
even
Hello.
our video guy Nick, I mean, he's sailing high with the Penrith Panthers on top of the table.
Top of the table.
They won't hold.
They're so relaxed. They're showing their tackle in public right now.
Oh, they're getting it out. They're loving
They're
it.
getting it out and waving it. They get their freak flag
Out
flying.
and proud.
Forget about
proud.
TikTok dancing. This is getting it out on free-to-air TV.
Look, I know that we all had our own ways to, I suppose, venture out into rugby league land to really get the, get the temperature. Put the finger into the right spot to see if it was hot or cold or what. I know that you went out to the grounds. We'll go to those stories in a moment.
Yes.
I went to the Gold Coast to see about this exodus that's happening with AFL, whatever that is, and rugby league. I saw no signs, nothing,
and supercars.
And supercar
And netball.
It was
and tennis.
very quiet.
And golf. It's everything.
Yeah.
Everything's moved up there. And I think what's happened here is Queensland has Anastasia Palaszczuk, huge rugby league fan, as we've established. She's looked at the Cowboys and gone, oh, they're dud. They've sacked their coach. She's looked at the Broncos. They should sack their coach. She looked at the Titans. Do they even have a coach? And she's gone, rugby league is dead.
Yeah.
We need to get something else. Let's get the AFL.
Right.
And they're still unhappy.
She was pretty quick off the mark with that, wasn't she?
Well, they're still
Yeah.
unhappy in Queensland because you may recall a few years ago there was a couple of Origin players, Queensland Origin players, the Spoonerists' nightmare, Carmichael Hunt,
Yes.
and the man that killed rugby, Israel Folau. So
Yes.
one from Minto, one from Auckland, obviously. But they were both Queensland Origin players. They were headhunted by the AFL. They were pulled from Queensland Origin to play AFL.
And didn't that go well with Kay Hunt?
But Anastasia, they have a long memory. She's gone, you take two of our players, we'll take your whole game!
Yes.
So they've ripped AFL out of Victoria and they've stolen it. off the
Extremely
Victorians.
successfully. Now, I mean, and it's interesting, if you're in the Gold Coast now, has been host of the radio version on FBI, Radio 94.5 FM on your Sydney
That's
FM
the
dial.
one, that's the one.
As opposed to the Diamantina Media Network when we are here in the Batuta Advocate / Budgie Smuggler studios. One of our hosts on the radio show, A.H. Kaylee, used to make the point that she'd never seen a baby pigeon and she'd never seen a Titans fan. You're strolling Cavill Avenue and
Yes.
you know the beachside.
Up and down Broadbeach, the boulevard, yeah.
And there's a lot of baby pigeons.
Did you see one Titans jersey?
No.
Not one.
Not one, no. I saw a lot of men with tattoos. A lot of men that look they're bikie chic. Tattoos, hair, beards, you know.
That's Bachelor in Paradise. You're sure you're not confusing real world with
No,
what
no,
you're
Bachelor
seeing
in
on TV?
Paradise is a whole... Tattoos, yes. No, I'm talking about, sort of on the rough edge of town,
The main streets of Broadbeach.
Seriously, a lot of homeless people in Cavill Avenue now.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, me too.
This is one of the impacts of the pandemic, isn't it? Business is down. I mean, you would have had your pick of the penthouses, I would have thought.
Yes, and if the Gold Coast is a sample of what's happening in the Sunshine Coast and Brisbane, there's plenty of room for all. There's nobody there.
So-
the zombies were coming around the corner.
So if the Overlord is looking quarantine,
Yeah.
COVID-safe style to package the game up, there's
Yeah.
no issue about getting accommodation.
No issue with accommodation, but I assume that in Queensland everybody wants, the government, Palaszczuk wants everything to be a tourist attraction. Once everything blooms again, you can't do that with rugby league players. They've got to be isolated, correct?
They've got to be out of the public eye.
They've got to be in the bubble.
The public eye.
In the bubble.
But if you created a bubble in Gold Coast and allowed
Yeah.
them to run rampant,
Yes.
right, then when the bubble opens, you
Yes.
could do the tour of here's where
Yep.
Bryce Cartwright went crazy,
Nuts,
here's
yeah.
where the Morris boys danced on the tables. And
Yeah.
again, you could have that sort of theme to it.
You could.
Bonnie Sampson, who was on the show, how good was it having Bonnie on last week, Dennis?
Yeah, thanks.
Just
I-
tremendous. Like a professional.
I miss Stephen terribly.
A professional host. It's such a contrast. She was very much advocating the rebooting of the Tangalooma Island idea.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh, yes.
But that just seems to me a step too far. I mean, if you're saying there's a lot of infrastructure in the Gold Coast unoccupied,
yes.
let's go for it.
Go for it. Look, and I tell you what is on hire is little electric toy vehicles, little push bikes and
Sure.
trolleys and scooters and whatever. Put the footy players on that, up and down, up and down, up and down.
As a tourist attraction,
As
like
a tourist
as a
attraction,
parade.
Yeah.
Here they
Yeah.
are.
Here
Hey,
they
look
come.
at them.
Well,
They
here
can
they
stay
come.
in the bubble.
Whoa, full colour,
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, there's a post-career employment opportunity. I mean, I think we've all gone past the institution of meter maids. It's no longer appropriate.
No.
But there's nothing wrong with
They've
the
got the
concept.
nostalgia picture of the meter
Sure,
maids.
sure.
Like we have nostalgia pictures of Sydney
you
when they
could-
lived down our building.
No, there'll be someone wanting to tear those photos down right now and the statues.
So you could have the FOTs, the former the former Titans greats, the
Yes. Yeah.
just getting up and down on their Zimmer frames and scooters.
Are there former greats?
Well, that's the gag. but they're getting there, and they're putting coins in people's meters. Or
Yeah.
they've got their little credit card, and they're just swiping the meter, go ding,
If they're
giving
like me,
people free
there's
parking.
so much money up there. You can tell. Not now, but there was. It
Yeah, a
was
lot
built
of it's all super. That's why it's Seabus Super Stadium. Everything up there is superannuation.
Right.
So all the superannuation, you put money in super, it's all invested on the Gold
I mean,
Coast.
for the life of me, I can't think, why aren't they successful?
Well, it would horrify you if you actually did put together a Gold Coast Chargers, Giants, Seagulls, Titans Hall of Fame. The quality and calibre of the players who have played there
Would shock me.
Yeah, and collectively non-performed. You got your Wally Lewises,
So
you got
they're
your Scotty
distracted, Chris.
Princes.
Is that what you're
your Ben
saying?
Ikens. It just,
Yeah.
it's just something not
The
right.
Falcon.
Oh, you're talking about.
The original Falcon. That's where it was the Chargers.
But it's the isn't the
He was a crusher.
Is it the
Southeast Queensland Crusher.
it's
Yeah,
the
it's a
mirage, the
crusher,
shimmer
you're right.
that is resort lifestyle. Like the buildings have names like Shangri-La and Brazil
Songwriter
and
Kings.
Miami and Florida and all this. So you're sort of lost in this whole sort of illusion. So perhaps,
As a kiddie, we used to go there for a holiday, and I used to love walking up and down the beach and admire what I thought were these Leviathan buildings,
Yes.
like 10 the Esplanade, the Focus, the Iluka.
yeah.
Now they're the
Q1,
runt of the
77
litter.
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Am I the only person who thinks there might be a bit of a lack of soul on the Gold Coast? Is that an outrageous concept?
Soul.
I think we'll be moving to Pat in segment 3 or 4 to
Soul,
discuss
yeah.
things that need to be dispensed with, and maybe that's one of the old cliches that we can retire that one.
Now let's talk about Brisbane then.
Brisbane.
Eh?
There was a wonderful caller to ABC Grandstand on the weekend who suggested with the Warriors that the Warriors have been offered they can move somewhere else. They don't have to stay on the Central Coast. They can move up to Queensland. They can't go to New Zealand. They want to move somewhere. And this caller called up from somewhere in the country with the driest country accent and said, why don't they move to Red Hill? You know, you got Lang Park, they could play there.
Yeah.
And the Broncos have this great training centre, which they're obviously not using.
Yeah. Dry. Yeah. Now they played your mob.
And I was there, Stephen.
You were there.
I was there.
I want to know
were there.
the walk-up experience. Was the hot dog dude that's been there for 2,800
Was
years
the
there?
air larded with the scent of
Was he
hot
there to
dogs?
start off the experience? Welcome, come on, Chris. Would you like a hot dog with onion?
Hot doggy, here's your hot doggy. Now, here's the thing, Stephen. I was, again, the beneficiary, and I mean, I feel somewhat reluctant.
The largesse, yes.
Of an experience that had me in the Latcham Robinson stand.
Oh, yeah.
That included a car park. And it was on... It was
Mary
on,
Street?
It was, no, it was on the Glover Street
Oh,
far
Glover
side.
Street. Yep.
Nobody is supposed to drive to Leichhardt.
Right.
It's just not right.
No, I never do. But
No.
I just had this opportunity.
Strange times.
And I knew that the crowd would be modest, and it was.
Yes.
And the gates didn't open until 6:30. So we were part of the huddle mass waiting to get in.
Which
20
is,
So-
of course,
so-
really
so-
good for COVID safe that you've got 2,000 people turning up and you have them all turn up at the same time so that they huddle rather than
Yeah,
saying,
yeah,
we're
yeah,
opening
yeah.
the gates real early so
Really
you
early.
can stretch it out.
We huddled at what's it called again? Western Suburbs Stadium.
Western Sydney Stadium.
So your Cadillac, you're cruising up in your Cadillac, you stretch,
Yes.
right? Disco lights going in the back, you know, boom, 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 Hayden Jones, right?
Bit of techno, which will come up when we talk about Brisbane, and we alight and we can't get in, so it's the anticipation, and of course there was a misty rain, and we sort of walk onto the Leichhardt Hill,
man.
and they call it the eighth wonder of the world, and I don't think that does it justice.
no.
And they've even built a little new cement staircase,
Yeah.
so you can get down the hill safely.
Right.
And it was a beautiful but somewhat alien experience.
So you've got the Moreton Bays at the back there.
Yes.
You've got the bats probably flying over the top from the
Yes.
north to the south. You've got this beautiful mist.
Yes.
The harbour's right near you.
Yeah, lights twinkling.
What would Banjo Patterson say? Something poetic? I got
There was rumour at the station that the word had got around that Benji Marshall was back in the starting 17.
Geez, he's diplomatic,
No, that's
isn't
Henry
he?
Lawson, isn't it?
That's Henry
Yes,
Lawson.
yeah.
Apparently they didn't like each other.
What about
Hated each
Waltzing
other.
Matilda? Was that Banjo Patterson?
Yes.
There you go.
So
He did
yes.
not the tune, but the lyrics,
The
yes.
lyrics, yeah.
Who's that jolly Bronco you've got stuffed in your double bag? Because we stuffed those Broncos.
Oh, no.
Anyway, we went up to the corporate area. And there was a restriction on space, so there were only 3 people per space. Now, Dennis was doing his usual stellar work for ABC Technical and came to say hello.
Cabling still when you
Yeah.
got there.
Yeah, and by
Barely
him-
could get a hot dog,
And
right?
sweating and stress.
Yeah.
and trying to get food off us, right?
Yeah.
On the scrounge. Yeah,
on the screen.
always.
He got the scones at half time.
Wow.
And
Did you sneak in?
I spoke to the caterer as well. I spoke to the guy who does the catering.
Well, if anybody's
Gave him a
on the
compliment.
inside-
Paid him a compliment.
and he stepped into our precinct. So we had 4 in the box, and they were apoplectic because the police were working the
rooms.
the rooms,
The space, yeah,
trying
yeah.
to make sure that everyone was social distancing.
Plod had his little whacker in his hand, right?
But what it meant
Notebook and
was,
pencil.
with the exception of me and Dennis, everyone up there was a celebrity, right? So I went the
Wow.
walk. I was introduced to Luke Lewis. I saw my mate Dean Hallertau, Joey Johns,
Yeah.
and at half time, I saw a shell of a man, empty, bereft of ideas,
Oh, dear.
lost,
Yes.
lonely,
Yeah, how far down?
and allegedly on Valium.
Yeah,
I
on
sp-
suicide watch.
yes,
Yeah.
and I
Did he have
speak,
a
of
little
course,
bomber jacket, a Harvard bomber jacket.
and he had a mustard jacket on. I speak, of course, of Anthony Seabold, who
Now,
was
it's a
coming
lot-
back from halftime.
It's a long way from Harvard to Leichhardt, isn't it?
That's, in fact, he stopped me and he said, Conan, he said, he said, Jesus, a long way from Harvard.
Yeah. They just don't listen to me anymore.
By the way, I've been to Harvard.
Of course you have.
Weekend course, barbecue,
No, wedding.
A wedding.
Yeah, parents were so proud. Finally made it to Harvard. Was there for 2 hours.
Yes. Now, apparently, from some quarters, particularly what do they call again? The galloping, the Broncos?
Thoroughbreds.
Thoroughbreds. They're up in arms, right? There are the thoroughbreds. I'm assuming you've committed money, including the guy who's the highest holder, which from memory, not known, Phil Murphy.
Phil Murphy, 22% he holds.
22%.
Yeah.
He says he's accepting mediocrity. You don't do that at Harvard.
You know what he did say?
What did he say?
So he was talking about what's happening in the joint right now.
Yeah.
And because there's a board meeting going on as we put this
Record,
podcast
yep.
together. And he had this to say. The whole team and those around it are impotent.
Impotent.
Right. There's no
There are
leadership.
pills for that.
That's right. Trust
Surgery.
me.
I believe.
Trust me.
Surgery as
I know.
I wasn't there.
That's the problem. There's no leadership and direction.
Oh, thanks, Chris.
It's
Like
like
leadership and erection. We're talking
direction.
sorry. When you're talking. Yep.
You boys.
It's like they're all on Valium.
So what?
How good's Valium?
But if you mix Valium with Viagra, what happens?
You have a great time, but
Relax, but happening.
But you don't remember it.
Everybody else does.
That's right. And this is where, and they talk about, I think you mentioned about the problem with the Broncos playbook. That
Yes.
What's the quote? That everybody's not on the same page.
Well, look, if I could go into this.
Yes.
He's got a lot of stories, a lot of theories. He says, I love what the Broncos represent. I think it's a mental issue at the moment. They're all like a deer in the headlights. Okay, so there's a couple of phrases.
Yeah.
Mental issue, deer in the headlights. So that one is fear generally. Like, what is that light coming at me? That's, anyway, mental issue.
So they're all like a deer in the headlights.
I tell you what it was. It was Luciano Leilua.
They're
That's
standing
what
on
it
the
was.
highway, the
They don't
lost
place their
highway.
one- so they are one team. It's not like they're a bunch of deer. What's
Yeah, they
the
move like
collective-
one of those cartoon things. They move in a pack. You
Yeah.
know, oh, there's headlights.
mob of deer.
Yeah. And it says here, he says, if the leaders aren't putting their heart and soul into it, nobody can expect the babies of the team to do the same. They are lost, but they're still moving in a pack and still staring at the headlights.
And it's a good point because
No heart, no soul.
I've read Paul Gallen's autobiography.
Yes.
And it's,
Which is all
I
about.
haven't-
and it's
Just
called
that.
Heart and Soul. Like, had it been just heart or
Yeah.
soul, he wouldn't have had the career he had.
No.
Got to have both.
Got to have both. Then he goes on to say, this is intriguing. He says, nobody is on the same page. It's like their storybook is 1,000,000 pages and nobody knows which one to open next. It's like a choose-your-own-adventure book where you can never get to the end. I think no wonder they're not on the same page.
It's a good income opportunity, though, isn't it? Like, watch
storybook?
No, spend an afternoon with Tavita Pangai Jr.
Yeah.
Choose your own adventure.
Choose your own adventure. Yeah.
I mean, they need some revenue.
And then gets a page. 1,000,000 pages, a lot of pages. 454,
But this is
Wow.
the trouble. I mean, no more venerated an academic institution than Stanford University recently came out with a research paper who shows there's statistically no correlation between Harvard University and rugby league.
Or success.
Right, and Seibold has fallen into the
Deep
trap
in
of
that
thinking that there
pit.
is a correlation.
Yeah.
And the team is suffering. I mean, you talk about a page book or a storybook of 1,000,000 pages. He was described by the Courier Mail, which I imagine you probably subscribed to when you were in the
No,
Gold
when I was
Coast.
up there every morning for breakfast, they were what do they call it? Taking flesh off their backs, excoriating them,
Hair shirting them.
rotting in 15th position or whatever they are,
And so the Courier Mail had a cutout when Seibold got the gig. He used to coach Pat's team, the hapless South Sydney Rabbitohs. And they said, put this on your fridge. This man will win us a premiership. Out went Wayne Bennett's old school style of man management. I don't like that term anymore. It's got to be person
But
management.
Chris, rugby league, right?
Yes.
Simple game.
Well, not according to Seibold.
No, I know that, but not according to
Because
Brian
he's got a
Smith
1,000,000-page book.
or even Des Hasler, the mad scientist.
Well, you
they
meant-
did complicated at times, didn't they?
Well, you talked about Smith. He was the whiteboard expert.
And
he
they
was
learnt the hard way.
Constantly texting people. He was in the paper this week and he's driving an Uber now. Very happy to talk about the old days. mind you.
Harvard Uber drivers everywhere, Chris.
That's right. Seibold is described as the thinking man's coach who made his team play techno in gyms to get the blood flowing,
Thinking man's coach.
used drone footage, and get this,
course.
talked about tactical periodization. I don't even know how to say
Those
that.
last two words, say it again.
Tactical periodization.
Well, we used to go to the periodical table, didn't we? With all the
Oh, you
minerals.
think it's chemistry, alchemy?
Yes.
Perhaps it's some sort of alchemy.
He's trying to work some magic, but it's just not happening yet.
And it comes back. It's a simple game.
Well, not a-
and when
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
20 minutes in, you're under
yeah.
fatigue, and
Yeah.
your blood's up, and
Yeah.
you're on that arousal curve.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is think about. You just want to play what's in front
Because
of you.
essentially, Dennis, I ask you, I don't follow soccer, but when the big games come, like all those Johnny-come-latelys, I jump aboard and I'll follow that World Cup. You know what they've got to do. There's only an offside if the last person has breached that thing. But essentially, you just muck around and get in the
Yeah.
holding pen.
There's a coach
That's it.
right there.
That's it.
I mean, the
And
Matildas are looking for a new coach.
Are they?
Put in an application.
Well, aren't there many opportunities in rugby league right now?
Oh yeah, they're
There's a
opening up
whole
all the
lot.
time. It's tremendous job security.
Are we going to talk about that now?
Well, I just want to finish on Seibold,
Yeah.
if I may. First of all, can you explain what tactical periodization is for us, Dennis?
Well, I haven't been to Harvard, so I may well get this wrong, but periodization is the idea that you break it up into periods. You got your first 20 minutes, then you got your second 20
yes,
minutes,
yes.
and it's when tactics apply to different parts. Obviously, the classic Storm periodization, 5 minutes before half-time, 5 minutes after half-time.
Yes.
You hold a steady, you score in those two zones,
You're
you're
in.
going to win the game.
Yeah.
I think that.
And it used to be Brisbane would hold the last 5 minutes.
Yes.
And they'd score in the last
Yep.
5 minutes and win the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
A little bit later, we're going to talk to producer Pat about expressions that should be retired from rugby league, and I would have thought the crucial 5 minutes before half time would be a candidate for that.
Yes,
I would have thought maybe tactical
Yeah.
periodization
And-
needs to be immediately
And when
retired
the
because it's a
team's
failure.
losing, Gus would go, now, they need to score now. Oh, no way. Surely not. Thanks, Gus.
There's been a lot of concern about cameras in the dressing room, as in the broadcasters' cameras, because let's face it, we all understand that the dressing room is a
Sacred space.
Thank you. But the Tigers had them beaming images into the lounge rooms on Friday, which I was able to enjoy. Is there anything better than being live at a game? I've never experienced a game where the Tigers were not challenged at all from minute 1 to minute 80.
So this was a novel experience for you.
Very novel,
Yeah.
48 zip,
Yeah.
and then you get home and watch the replay.
Does it get any better?
It's just, and it's on a Friday.
You
so
know the result, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of the guys is weird. Goes, really? You go home and do that? And I said,
Of course.
What else would you do?
Especially when you know the results. Like I watched the Raiders Roosters game on Thursday night when I got home. I watched it again when I got up on Friday morning. I watched it again Saturday.
And there are probably people watching this going, the collective intelligence of this mob just went like.
And if it's a Thursday or Friday, your whole weekend is set up.
Yeah.
Right, it's just great.
You're just walking on clouds.
So there was footage of the Broncos. This is the modern person management that Seabold's employing. Each Bronco had to stand up and say something about what they were going to do, right?
You could hear this?
No, but I could lip read.
Lip read, of course.
Every single Bronco got up and said, I am Spartacus.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the game, there was a very distressing image, which I think was product placement, of Xavier Coates, who'd got his Uber Eats, opening his grilled hamburger,
Now,
all the other guys ordering them on their mobile phones, all disconnected, yet somehow
Let's
weirdly
just
connected.
unpack that a little bit, because I am Spartacus, of course, Kirk Douglas, accused of something which would have led to a severe punishment, probably death at the hands of the Romans, I imagine. These players are all on the chopping block, the firing line, whatever you want to call it. So by one of them saying I am Spartacus, then all saying I am Spartacus, means they can't go down as one individual. They go down as a group completely. Not a bad trick, though, Chris.
It's pretty
I
clever.
wonder, though, imagine if just one of them had stood up and said, boys, tomorrow's game day.
Now Kilimanjaro! Jesus Christ!
The Tigers would have been shot!
Can you take that? Is it copyright only for the Roosters?
It was such a great move by the players.
Can we put some music to that?
We're going
I
on.
think we need to.
It's such a good move because they went around every Broncos player and then they get to coach and Seabold's about to get out and go, I am Spartacus. The boys go, let's go, boys! And they ran out. And at the end of the day, this ultimatum that Seabold has or hasn't been given about win 5 of the next 10, I mean, good luck.
Yeah.
Kruger Kronk, I mean, he kind of puts an underline on this. He says to do that is accepting mediocrity. If there's one thing we know Cooper never did was accept mediocrity.
No.
But
He was Superman.
He was.
Had a cape underneath.
But bizarrely, he went on to support much criticised importer from the Storms half Brodie Croft, who he said has been strangled in the snake pit that is the Broncos.
Depending on what sort of snake it is, right, Dennis? You know snakes.
Well, don't.
It's got to be a python.
There was a bit of a snake. A bit of snake appeared in the Penrith game.
That did again.
Is that right?
I can just see
Good
the documentary of the beleaguered season 2020 for the Broncos, the Brisbane Broncos, Snakes on Valium.
Yes. Not on a plane. Or could they be on a plane?
It's a sequel.
Snakes on
It's a
Valium.
sequel.
With Samuel L. Jackson playing Anthony Seabold.
Yes.
No, way too animated. No.
I'm going to say, there's a lot of coach movement. Do you want to talk about that now? Because I want to talk about the Walker brothers.
Well, the Walker brothers, absolutely.
And Queensland, Ben Ikin, earmarked for CEO, is that right?
Of Broncos.
Broncos. And wishing them well. The Walker brothers, of course, are Queenslanders going to potentially the Warriors in New Zealand.
Ipswich Jets.
Ipswich.
The boys from Ipswich, which is such a like the Walters boys, the Alfie Langer from Ipswich.
Now,
Ipswich
they've got these
and what's her name? Please explain. Pauline Hanson. That's what you get from Ipswich.
Well, she's a revolutionary.
Absolutely. Well, Kevy's a revolutionary.
Kevy is too.
And an artist and a poet.
All Queenslanders.
They are.
They are.
Sensitive types and revolutionaries.
So apparently these Walker brothers have got a revolutionary methods in their tactics, and they've worked at junior levels, and they could well work with confidence. They've got a plan, a game plan. Chris, can you just detail that, please?
I'll have a crack.
Yeah.
It's basically it's built around a concept that is actually, I think, as we hopefully move through the pandemic, we'll get into sharper focus again, and that's climate change. And one of the things about climate change, even if you don't accept it, you have to accept that the natural resources of the world are finite.
Yes.
Correct?
Including the houses at Wombrel.
Correct. So the Walker brothers have applied that finite natural resources issue to energy and the energy of the rugby league player. And they said the energy, there's not an endless reservoir of energy for the rugby league player. Ronnie Gibbs might be an exception there.
Yeah.
And so therefore, your job as a team is to deplete the natural resources of the opposition
the other
team.
team. Wow.
So therefore, what they do is to say the best way to get gas out of the tank is make the opposition play defence.
So it's almost the opposite of rope-a-dope. Rope-a-dope is where Muhammad Ali says, what are you
Just
going to do?
cops it.
I'm going to dance, I'm going to dance. Then he just stands against the ropes, lets the ropes absorb it, just takes it,
No,
takes
so it's
the
not the
punches.
opposite. Isn't that what he's suggesting?
No, he's suggesting that they are going to
they're
dance.
attacking. Oh, yes,
They
yes.
are going to
They're
dance.
defending, yeah.
That's all they do. They don't defend.
Just dance.
They just
Defend
dance.
a stare.
So they will
keepings off.
Sveshnikov.
They play keepings
Nijinsky.
off. If the other team doesn't have ball, they can't score points.
Yeah.
Don't let them have the ball.
Starve them of possession.
Starve
It's
them
a
of
rugby
possession.
union
Oxygen,
tactic, really, isn't it?
gas.
Yeah.
Wow.
Energy.
Energy?
Yeah, ticker.
Yeah, that's science.
And so,
It's periodisation.
so as part of their research project, Stanford came up that the average set of 6,
Yeah.
and I guess they have to now do set of 7, and then if it's a set restart,
Oh my God, 12.
set of 8.
Well, potentially more, because as we know that the set of 7, if there's a set restart within that,
add another 6.
it goes back to
That's
7.
right.
No, it goes another 7.
Another 7.
It goes back to 0.
14.
Yeah,
Goes back to 0.
Wow, imagine that.
And that could happen again.
Yeah, 21.
It's like those mirrors that go on forever.
We're getting back to pre-66. Unlimited tackles.
That's
Correct.
kind of what the Walker brothers trying to do.
de-evolution. It's the theory of
De-evolution.
de-evolution.
Yeah. Diva, revolutionaries.
Absolutely. Jocko Homo. And so the average set of 6 goes for about 56 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. The Walker brothers...
Is that right?
The Walker brothers...
By my calculations, yeah.
The Walker brothers are interested in the average set of 6 in possession going a minute 10, a minute 20.
Yeah.
In other words, another 20 seconds where the opposition has to play defence. So they just shift the ball from side to side.
Just keep using up gas.
They look for short kickoffs to try and get possession. They look for short dropouts to try and get possession.
Wow.
And this has revolutionised
Yeah.
the Queensland State Cup.
So
The Intrust Super Cup.
if it was possible, if you really wanted to get someone like that, you'd go for like Mao, Chairman Mao.
Yes.
He was a revolutionary.
Yes.
Loved his rugby league.
Che Guevara.
It's a lot like that, taking him on the long walk.
Yes,
Just with
Gandhi,
the ball. Keep the ball.
Gandhi,
The long walk,
okay.
hold the ball.
Lenin and or Trotsky.
Yeah, which Lennon?
Yeah,
Both.
Lennon McCartney or Lennon Trotsky? Which
I've never really definitively worked out when David Bowie on Life of Mars refers to Lennon, which one he's talking about.
Which one is he talking
Yeah.
about? Let's look at the script when we go off air.
But you know, this idea of bringing the Walker brothers in to run the Warriors.
It is. It's Gandhi, long walk, didn't
Yes,
it?
yes.
Mao had one. The
Yes.
Walker brothers,
Yeah.
long
The
walk.
Walker brothers.
It's all about the long
So
walk.
as soon as he gets there, they've got to walk around the North Island, right?
The long walk.
The long
And have
walk.
a deep think about shit.
And let me tell you, if they can get the Warriors a premiership, they will be in the annals of history.
Man,
right?
oh man.
Right. And what was interesting about
And I'd renew my membership. I got a membership this year. I'd renew it for sure.
Double membership.
Wow.
There you go.
Who are you? Andrew Voss. And all the best, Vossy, recovering from eye surgery. He's been tweeting for our show. It's great.
He's getting him green.
Ben Eichen went on 360 and talked about this and said the great thing about the Walker brothers is they walked into the meeting with the Warriors
didn't
management
walk.
online.
There you go.
Yeah, walk online.
Moonwalk?
Yeah. Well, they're showmen.
The showman. Exactly.
And said, this is what we'll do with your roster, right? Rather than his...
Your roster's no good.
Yeah. And so that seems revolutionary talk, and I can seem to be of great praise of it. And here's the dilemma. The Walkers are going in and being positive about the Warriors have, yet when Eichen, in the frame for the Broncos CEO, here's what he says about their current list management. Disgusting! Listen to yourself, Ben. You're going down the wrong
path.
route.
We're back in just a moment. Fire up. Quite Australian.
Get a knock on the door. A girl just sticks her head in. She says, someone's just rang and said last night that they've got a phone call saying fire up.
Oh, the famous fire up.
Welcome back to Fire Up. Chris Gale, Dennis Carnahan, myself, Stephen Ferris. All winners this week. Winners, Pat over there. Producer Pat. Nearly got there. Not quite. We'll talk about that later.
Accustomed to it, though.
Yes, but I did take great delight sitting in my Gold Coast studio suite.
Penthouse suite.
Penthouse suite on the weekend, watching the Roosters be done over by the Raiders. Glorious sight, glorious sight.
Wasn't it just beautiful? there was so much poetry in there.
There was.
The bear was poked, and this
The
is
bear
the
was
great
poked, yeah.
Ricky Stewart quote afterwards.
Yeah.
When did you know they were going to win?
Yeah.
When Angus Crichton, the 9.5 fingered fool, elbowed Papa in the nose.
Yes.
They poked the bear. He said, "I knew we were going to win from
Classic
that point."
boxing move, that one.
Oh yeah.
I thought he was just trying to get up to play the ball.
No, he
No
wasn't.
nonsense. You
No,
know he
nonsense.
wasn't.
Need
And then
your
of course,
glasses.
Come on, that's not Crichton's go, is it?
oh yeah, 100% it is. And it must break South Hearts fans to see how his form has plummeted.
No,
since
it's
he's gone
interesting you
to the
should say that
Roosters.
because Crichton is out with a MCL, uncertain period of time out. But I would argue he has really... Yes, he's worked his way into
But
this.
he played.
The injury occurred during the game, Dennis. It does happen.
Okay.
He wasn't focusing on that.
I would argue, in a very serious moment of football analysis, which we don't do in the show, that he was working into his season and he's worked very nicely this year, and he was much better than last year.
Yeah, I
would-
still
I would
think he was
agree with
better at the
that.
Rabbitohs. He was better at the Rabbitohs.
I would say though that perhaps they've come off the boil. The Roosters.
No.
The Chooks were not.
Don't
Seriously.
Don't discount.
I'm not
the
discounting
effort,
what
the
Poking the
heart.
Bear does.
You don't know what goes
Under the
underneath
hood,
that
is
badge. Underneath that badge is what it's all about.
What with the angry ant as your coach?
Oh, the angry ant had them all fired. They were fired up.
I get that.
Was Ricky playing the siege mentality? You
Yeah.
bet he was. Absolutely loving it. And how good was it? It was, and seeing Tupanua with the top knot. He likes to come onto the field and inject energy. And when Crichton went the elbow on Papa. Tupanua is one of the first ones in. He's got Joe Tarpana in a headlock, and he's bang rough.
Look, they're classic
Hudson
classic
grabbed him by
outsiders,
the
Dennis.
back and threw him.
Yeah.
And Tupanua was on the ground
Yeah.
going, "What hit me?"
Yeah.
And actually ran away from the fight. It was beautiful.
It doesn't get any better though when you've got the entitled Eastern Suburbs team with the Mount Kilimanjaro spirit running through them,
Yes.
and then you've got what I consider Canberrans have always been outsiders.
Oh, very
They'll stick
much.
together. They're an odd bird, aren't they?
Oh, very.
No one's from Canberra. They're always from somewhere else. As I said, no one's from
Well, there's
Canberra.
two
Born
Canberras,
and
aren't
raised.
there? They're the locals, and then there's the fly in and out.
There's the blow-ins.
The blow-ins. Well,
There's
these
the blow-ins
politicians
that
come and
serve-
go.
Yeah, they serve two.
Ever been to the airport in Canberra on the weekend? Sunday night, all the planes coming in.
Yeah.
Friday, they're all going out.
Yeah.
It is my brother who works down there. He says the perfect life would be work in Canberra, no traffic. You just if you're doing the speed limit, it's a traffic jam. You live within 5-10 minutes of where you work.
Yeah.
There's good restaurants during the week, great places to have lunch, great places to have dinner. Weekend, head out of town.
Head out of town.
That's what the politicians
Straight
do.
to the South Coast.
Stephen,
Kangaroo Valley. Yep.
I was there.
At the game.
Yeah.
And where was that played?
It was at the Sydney Cricket Ground, the old girl.
And how many
old girl.
people?
About 3,347 from
And,
memory.
is the fan in the stand still there, or are they gone now?
They
No
never had
fan
him-
in the stand.
They never had him there because it was the fan in the stand was only at the three
The
bubbles.
Fitted.
Yeah.
Ah, the bubbles. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone's had their cutouts sent to them now by express mail.
Oh,
so
okay,
it's,
right.
it's in the
I haven't
pool
got
room.
mine.
Yeah, well, you should have, and I'd be inquiring.
Mm-hmm.
That's $22 you've wasted. No, they probably sent it to Peter Beattie.
And Wayne Pearce has got one.
He goes, "What the hell is
Gal's
this?"
got one.
And I mean, Dennis will no doubt want to make a couple of observations, but I'd like to make this observation. Going into the game, the Boone forward for the Sydney Roosters, as they're formerly known, Lindsay Collins was a smoky for Origin. He no longer is a smoky for Origin based on his performance. What happens when you're no longer a smoky? What are you now?
A burnt ember.
outcast.
Coal, ash.
Exposed.
Can I just pick up on that?
Exposed by Papa? Is that what it is? Or was it? He was exposed by Dynamis Louis. And that's the thing. Dynamis Louis
He was exposed like that
people.
Penrith player.
He was more exposed
During the
than
weekend.
that Penrith player. What was his name? Billy Burns.
Billy Burns. Originally, Eastern Suburbs, surely. Not Sydney.
Yes.
They pissed a lot of people off when there was that big hunt for territory.
Do you remember that?
What?
The mid-90s battle for the name
yeah.
Sydney? Do you
The name
remember
Sydney, yeah,
do you remember
yeah.
the protagonists?
You had it.
Sydney Tigers.
Sydney
Yes.
Bulldogs.
Sydney
Sydney
Bulldogs.
Bulldogs,
And
Sydney Roosters.
no, Sydney City Roosters.
Sydney City, that's right. Like Sydney
right.
City Ford, right?
Yeah.
And out of that, somehow they got the rights to the name Sydney.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, and I keep mentioning this, there's nothing that upsets Roosters fans more than when you sit there, as I did, and go, "Come on, Sydney!" But that's their name, isn't it? They all go, Easts. I don't get it.
Yes, they reclaimed their original
They
status.
got what
have
they wanted.
Yeah.
They got what they wanted. The Sydney
and
Roosters.
then they discarded
Deal with it.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. It's confusing, though, isn't it?
Very confusing. Yeah.
Okay. Look, I was jumping up and down. I was loving the game. I thought it was fantastic. And when that hit came, and then Papali, I thought he waddled through, but you had a different take on this, Dennis.
No, what's happened is the entire team, the entire Roosters, the entire Sydney Roosters team were looking at Jackie Boy Whiten because he was so destructive on the left. All they had eyes for was Jackie Boy, 6 to go, no last,
Yeah,
Whiten.
send it to me.
And Jackie Boy had his hands out ready, and Tommy Starling, God love Tommy
I do
Starling.
like that kid, the
Tommy
number 14 off the bench.
moustache. Did you see his hit on, what's their big prop, Takiaho?
Yeah.
Charging at him. Takiaho is charging at him full
Great
tilt. So
name.
you've got a 4'2",
Takiaho.
4'2" hooker. Takiaho runs at him and he picks him up and dumps him on his back. It was amazing. Oh, Tommy Starling, they're saying he should have been a weightlifter.
But I think the telling image was that
Papa ran through.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille, and he's now in line for an actor award. I'm talking about Josh Morris.
My goodness.
Hello.
That was astonishing.
And he was pinged straight away, doesn't
No,
he?
he wasn't. He got the penalty.
He got the penalty.
He got the penalty, and they challenged
Klein
it.
bought the
But
ruse.
I think
Or
fans
was it
knew
Sutton?
it.
It was Sutton.
We
It was
knew
Sutton,
it. We
but-
knew it, though, didn't we?
Rapiner ran in and was just going, challenge. He was all over it saying, I did not. Like, I stood my ground. I'm allowed to stand my ground.
Yeah.
Then he called it an escort. An escort is generally a third player who's escorting someone away. You
Away.
can't escort someone away
and
from yourself.
in the world of Cameron Smith, he would have won that.
Oh, easily.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And I was going, oh, no. What? Not only did he get hit in the beak, he got penalised. They're going to get away with it.
It was shocking. It was shocking.
You just said, Stephen, we all knew that. I just need to point out again, I was at the cricket ground.
Of course.
You can't see a thing.
Can't see a damn thing.
You cannot see a
Misty
thing.
night, not
Yeah.
quite atmospheric as Leichhardt.
It's all just colour and movement.
And
you
they're
know.
about 500 metres away.
with Big Papa's try, Tommy Starling gave him the ball, and you could hear on the. Obviously, I've watched it a few times, as I mentioned before. You could hear Jerry Sutton going, Mitch Orbison, you're offside. Orbison out of the play. Orbison out of the play.
So that, to the
And
thinking
Joey
player...
has so Papa has just run straight at Mitch Orbison, who's had to stand out
That's
of the
not
way.
Big Pappy, of course.
That's Big Papa.
Big Pappy's a different...
No,
Different
Big
guy.
Pappy's a different guy.
Oh, I know.
He's former Sydney Rooster.
Porn star, right?
Yeah. No, Papa's... No,
No, it's
Pure
Canberra.
clean
Come
skin.
on.
Pure clean skin, Papa.
Yeah, feet on the ground.
And it's Lindsay Collins stands there going, oh, I'm not going to make that. And then Tedesco, you can actually see Tedesco's face going, I'm the fullback. I'm going to cover. God, he's big. Yeah, nah.
Yeah,
And just pulls out.
small matter of the goalpost there. But by the way...
I feel that he's doing the replay.
Yeah.
We're going,
Of course, and of course, the try by Phineas,
no.
by Phineas or Georgie Williams, who, if you haven't seen Phineas and Ferb, look at Phineas and Ferb. Phineas is George Williams. George Williams is Phineas. He runs off and he discards the angel Cameron, not Cameron, Nathan, Jakey Friend. Jake Friend goes in to tackle with the wings up and he discards him with the left. And then Tedesco comes across and again discarded like rubbish and puts the ball down.
But
Right.
I will say about George Williams, decent beak. But you failed to mention in the Papali try the point where Starling threw it 3 feet forward.
No, he didn't.
Didn't he? Oh,
No, that's just a Sydney Roosters conspiracy.
parallax error.
Sydney Roosters
But I
conspiracy.
wouldn't have thought that was Josh Morris's go. That sort of
The dive.
See, this is the corruption that creeps in when you're in the eastern suburbs, Roosters.
He can hit. If
He wouldn't have done it with the Dragons. He had integrity then.
6 months ago, he
He
never
sold
heard,
his soul.
6
Who
months ago,
to?
he never heard the Kilimanjaro speech.
No,
now
no.
it's
he's completely
it's in his
hypnotised by the
DNA.
nonsense.
He's
yeah.
made a mistake though. Because what he heard was, boys, tomorrow's game day. On
the
game
arm-
day,
the
you
arms
act. On
went
game
up.
day, you throw the arms up in the air and dive.
Now, talking about music, traditionally, when Gus Gould walks through the smoke on the field, State of Origin, delivers that great big...
Oration.
It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Churchill.
Camera down on the ground, I'm expecting something like that, Dennis.
This is Origin.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what Origin's
Have you
about.
noticed all those other TV shows? What do they call The Bachelor and The Voice and The Master Chef?
They all use Phil Gould.
It's like Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer in every action film you've ever heard,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All that shit. And you're going,
Yep.
they're baking a cake.
I know.
You know?
I know.
What's going on there?
They're going to dump a guy or girl on
They've
TV.
got a rose. There's a rose.
No, well, it's manipulating your emotions, Stephen. I would have thought you being in the music game would know that.
We see through this, Chris.
Yeah,
We
okay.
do.
Can I make two observations about last Thursday night? Apart
Yes.
from it was actually quite chilly out there, wasn't it, Dennis? First of all,
He didn't feel it.
I was in
He's
a.
from Canberra.
I again, courtesy of I won't mention Stephen Gorry by name, but I was courtesy of him. I was
Disappointed, Chris?
well. I was in a corporate area.
You're
again.
enjoying his hospitality, were you?
This is right. So I saw in quick succession rugby league identities: Brad Fittler, Lara Pitt, Emma Lawrence, and then Dennis.
Hang on, Emma Lawrence? Did you say what?
Emma Lawrence.
Did you say celebrity?
Yes.
Okay, all
Absolutely. And then Dennis.
And Dennis.
But see, they were walking up calmly dressed in suits. I was running up, sweating,
Yeah.
carrying
Dennis
radio
Murray.
mics out of the rain.
Honest. Toiling.
Toiling.
Yeah.
And it's in nobody's interest for me to mention Stephen Gorry's name, but
No.
it was a corporate area surrounded by corporate areas, and we were distinguished by one thing,
Yeah,
Steve.
you had no
Dennis?
champagne.
No catering. Zero catering.
So no hospitality.
No hospitality at all.
Did he offer for you to bring your own?
No.
Was there a surcharge?
No, but you were able to walk out to the general area and buy a
So
pie.
what did John
Okay.
Thank you,
Barilaro-
Andrew Collins.
Was John Barilaro there saying, bring your own six-pack, get on it?
And let me tell you, around us, bento boxes, a lot of good stuff.
no.
And this takes us back to 1994, where he also issued me an invitation to see.
How many years ago was that, Chris?
26.
You're not counting.
I am. He invited me courtesy of
Hello, Steve Gorry.
Yes.
All the best to your family, the SCG Trust, and your friends, etc., etc.
That's right. His former employer invited us out to a game at the Sydney Football Stadium, one of the outdoor boxes in the corporate area. And again, every single box around us catered.
Would you
us, no catering.
Would you say that's his go?
It's absolutely his go.
My work here is done. Because you don't remember what the stadium was called in that era.
In 1994?
It was the Sydney Football Stadium.
SFS, I said that.
It was the Sydney Football
I said
Stadium.
that. I said Sydney Football
That's what
Stadium.
it is. It always will be.
And
Always will be.
And
It's not there, though, at the moment, Dennis.
What's there's a hole. There's a big hole.
And I have to say, when I'm hungry, I get nostalgic. So I was very nostalgic on Thursday night.
26 years of nostalgia.
Right, so I remembered the incident from 26 years prior, but I also remembered that the last time that the Canberra Raiders strode onto the Sydney Cricket Ground was the 1987 Grand Final, Stephen.
How we remember that.
So
I don't, because I was plying my trade in a band.
Whereabouts were you?
I think Wollongong, from memory.
The big place in the North Wollongong, the North Wollongong Hotel, was
To be honest with you, Dennis, I've blanked the
Beaches.
whole night because we had tickets to see Michael Jackson at Parramatta Stadium, 87, and I was convinced by our then agent, manager, whatever. What do they call them then? Booking agent.
This Michael Jackson.
You
It's
have
a
to have-
fad.
Impresario.
It's a
Ethics,
fad, it'll
ethics.
pass.
You don't give up a gig. I've signed a contract for a pittance to play in whoop whoop. You can't go to see Michael Jackson, and we all went, oh really? I suppose you've been a night. This might reflect badly on us, and we all gave our tickets away.
Well,
What a dumb
I
move that was.
Mum splashed out. Mum's a New Zealand farm girl, not prone to splashing out. She splashed out for 3 of her sons. She bought us tickets on Ansett, this package deal. Ansett, fly up in the morning, get on a bus, go and have chow down somewhere, bus to the stadium, watch reserve grade, watch first grade.
Not Michael Jackson.
No.
No.
Then bus back to the airport, and then we were on commercial flights back. And it was free booze the whole day. And she bought us all
what an ugly
Raiders
sight
jerseys
that
as
is.
well. So by the time we got to reserve grade, I have not a lot of memory of what went on,
No.
except that Cliffy Lyons
Soul and heart
played touch
gone.
football. Oh, no, there was plenty of heart. There was plenty of soul, just no vision or memory. And we sang. One thing I do remember as the memory started to come back, on the plane, we got the hostesses to give us colouring in pads and coloured pencils, and about 6 of us sat there hurriedly writing out the words "The Green Machine" 100 times.
And everyone was coloured in green.
Handed it through the plane, and we had the whole plane. This is a Sunday night, so there's plenty of there's politicians, there's staffers. The whole plane for about 20 minutes was going, "We're bad and mean, the Green Machine." It was
Chris, are you buying
magnificent.
No, it's okay. I just remember Kevin Ward flying out from
Day.
England,
Lovely memory, though.
touching you
Dennis,
up
lovely.
and Fatty Vorton on shoulders. I was heading out to Michael Jackson, Stephen. And
Firebrand.
Yes,
Fatty.
that's right.
Genuine firebrand.
And the reason I was heading out on the Saturday was I'd been on the Friday, and we walked out of the ground and went straight to the box office and said, "We're up again. We're going again."
Right.
And what was interesting about going and seeing Michael Jackson was the bad tour.
Where did he play?
It's Paramount Stadium.
Right.
The old stadium, yeah.
Yeah. What was interesting about it was
Which we thought was the end of the earth.
Was there something on the footy stadium when the cricket ground was?
Yeah.
There was no footy
there was
stadium.
no footy stadium.
There was something on at the cricket ground.
Yeah.
The grand final. But
Noise complaints, probably.
when you see that show, and
the
you can
eastern
get
suburbs.
it on a DVD, it's an amazing show. And I mean, I know Michael Jackson, vexed topic, but it seems so spontaneous. But then when you saw it 2 nights in a row, you just
Not
saw
so.
the incredible rehearsal in it.
Yeah.
It's the tour is remembered for no other reason that Cheryl Coe was his backing singer.
Yes.
But the point where he does "She's Out of My Life,"
Yeah.
right? And he kind
That's
of
where you cry, right?
Well, he breaks down halfway through and
Yeah.
he just goes, "Can I come down there?" Right? And they bring a girl out of the audience.
Did you know that wasn't his real
Beautiful.
voice? He put that on. Like Andy Warhol, they put it on.
Like Tiny Tim.
Yeah, yeah.
Really, is a
Put it
baritone.
on.
He's just he
that
had
was
a,
their shtick.
he had a helium balloon in his pocket. Can I come down there?
Can I finish this segment off by saying Annesley has issued a blanket warning. He's not pointing fingers at anybody, that there's a worrying new tackle that we don't think is so new. He's called it the hanger,
Yes.
where you've got blokes up top and one bloke comes down and takes out your kneecaps, basically.
At an angle.
At an angle.
Yeah.
Why is it called the hanger?
Well, I think
Because
it's
you're hanging around.
I have a lot of trouble.
Yes.
It's like they're hanging the guy up, and then he comes
He's
in and
defenseless.
shoves. It's like I have trouble getting my dry cleaning into my wardrobe because there are too many other hangers left there. It's like
Yeah.
It's like a hanger, and then you hang them out
Yeah.
to dry and bang.
Yes.
But it's had other names, isn't
Yeah,
it?
Was this the Prowler?
It looks like a prowler to me.
Was it the cannonball?
And I
'Cause
think
that was
Melbourne
the-
were very
was
good
it-
at prowlers.
And Isaac Luke was good at the cannonball, coming in sideways, doing the ACL by
Bang,
compacting
bang,
the knee
yeah.
into the side.
Can I just say, and I think I've gone on Twitter on record as this, is that I just don't think with the Eastern Suburbs Roosters that 4 in a tackle is just not enough.
The Sydney Roosters.
Can we get more than 4 in a tackle, every tackle?
Well, you can.
You can.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what happened with Josh Papali scoring that try. The
No,
first
none in a tackle.
the first tackler was Jackie Boy Whiten. Got right on top
Is
of him.
this the fourth time we've heard this now?
And then there was like 13. There was 12 players tackling Josh
yeah.
Papali. Just none of them had the Roosters jersey
Piling
on.
But have we not all noticed it? That they're essentially trying to get 4 in every tackle.
Yeah.
And that takes longer. Have we not noticed that? It's like Melbourne
And
again.
it means they can have more time to unpack.
Of course, and that's legitimate.
Because they're trying to avoid the oven bell. And,
Come on.
And the interesting thing about all this is I think it's got Cameron Smith's fingerprints all over it. Because by reaching out to Annesley, he goes, rebrand it, the hanger.
Yeah,
and
no
I'll
one
just
will
go,
know.
it's not our go. Sure, Prowler, yes.
Yes.
Sure, Cannonball,
Cannonball,
yes.
yes.
But we're not.
Chicken wing,
Sure,
yes.
but not the hanger.
Yeah,
That's
no.
got nothing to do with
Crushed
it.
And
on.
is
Yeah.
it possible that he might emulate Superman and go to the Roosters next year for one final year?
Well,
How about that?
Honestly,
It'd be great.
Boy, wouldn't that be interesting?
Cameron Smith,
Cam.
just because he's the devil. And he can.
Here's a smoky for you. Hello, Lindsay Collins. Bellamy and Smith to the Broncos.
oh,
The ultimate prodigal sons.
Wow, that's interesting.
Rescuing Queensland football.
Well, let me
See,
talk about
if they're going
Bellamy.
to go anywhere, they should go
Yeah.
where Bellamy played and where Cam Smith wanted to go, but they turned him away. And had they not signed Dave Furner, they were going to have
We're
Bellamy
talking
and
about
Smith.
Canberra again?
Yeah, he was going to go. He was going to go.
On that note, we'll come back in just a moment here. Fire up.
And now it's time for the latest instalment of The Life and Times of Gus Gould.
It's a funny game, rugby league. It changes quickly, isn't it? It's a funny game.
Yeah.
Funny game.
And that was the latest instalment of The Life and Times of Gus Gould.
Quite Australians, we're back. Fire up. Here we are. And I think we're pretty fired up. We're pretty happy. Yeah?
I'm a bullion right now.
Yeah. Can't wait for the song, Dennis, next week. Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh yeah.
The launch. The reveal.
Do we have the lyrics written out? Is there any way
do.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
transcribed?
I'll send it to you.
Oh, please send it.
I'll send it
It's
to you
going to
too.
come on. Oh yeah.
They're pretty inspiring. They'll stop you on the spot.
Oh,
You'll be
that-
thinking about it all night long.
Hey, can you play sitars?
I can have a go.
Timbalis? I think it's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of caper, don't you?
Is it?
Don't you think? A raga
Yeah.
You want an udu maybe?
Or do it to Toto.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Where is Kilimanjaro?
or a thumb
Africa.
piano?
Hey?
It's Africa.
Come on, you know the song
Exactly.
Toto.
So where does the sitar come into it?
Well, when I landed on Africa the first time and we hopped in a car,
Yeah.
my mate who was from South Africa,
Yeah.
the first song he played us was Toto's Africa.
Can you merge Toto with it?
Yeah.
Oh, I believe I can.
There you go.
Sure as Kilimanjaro
now,
rises
does anybody remember
like
this week-
Olympus above the Serengeti.
Which is geographically inaccurate, I believe.
Yeah, they're 200 miles away.
Yeah.
And Olympus is, of course, it says like Olympus, it's a simile.
Like Olympus, yeah. Did I not hear this week that, and I'm not sure the details, you can flesh me out here, that Craig Bellamy said he would run nude around a golf course, the Twin Lakes golf course,
Yes.
under some circumstances?
Yes.
If the Raiders beat the Storm,
Right.
This was this happened in a Ricky Stewart press conference. He said, "I've been on the phone to Craig Bellamy, and he
Right.
said that he would, if you're not going to beat us 4 times,
Right.
you beat us the 4th time, I'm going to run nude around Twin Towns golf course," which Craig Bellamy said, I never said that. Anyone who knows me knows I didn't say that.
it was a beat-up, was it?
Anyone who knows Ricky knows that he's made that
He
up.
made it up. He's a joker, isn't he?
Oh,
He's a scallywag.
He's got such a sense of humour. Don't you love him? Don't you just love him?
Yeah. Okay, enough of Canberra. On to you, Chris.
Just a couple of things, Stephen. First of all, we've got producer Pat joining us for this segment. And Pat, I want to apologise.
Don't wave at me. Wave
No
at the camera,
smiling, Pat. You're a
There
loser.
we go.
And Pat, I want to apologise to you. When we were talking about Charlie Staines from Penrith, 4 tries on debut,
Oh, yes.
first one to do it since, and I thought it was Jordan Rankin from the Gold Coast Titans, and it was Jordan Atkins. And Pat was totally correct on that, and I just want to
He's
publicly
always
own my
correct.
mistake.
Yeah, yeah.
Pat has 3 years of rugby league, which he knows everything about.
Yeah.
absolutely everything
Oh,
about
just
those
3
3 years.
years.
Don't challenge. Is it 3 or 4 years?
It's 05 to 08, but 06 I'm a bit spotty on.
I
05, 07,
Why
08.
is that, Pat?
Do not challenge him.
Why are those years?
It's your
I
age,
was
right?
15. I was
Yes.
15 in 06, so
The
Yeah.
testosterone.
I was just starting to get out and
Puberty
about.
kicks in, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a friend called Garth who went on to manage Alice in Wonderland, of all things.
Oh, yes, yes.
And he is full bottle on late 90s NBA because he was 15. It's just
NBA.
the basketball. It's
Okay.
just it's sort of a adolescent male
Thing?
thing.
When
Yeah,
you
yeah.
when you go out with Garth, does he provide
You
hospitality? Or
See, I'm the opposite. I was interested in as a kid, and then when the chasing girl phase came,
Yep.
I lost interest
Really?
to some degree. Yeah, GTK was more important to me than the Dragons at that point.
Well, you obviously haven't met Garth, or you've met Pat. And were the girls interested?
Yes, I think they were, Chris.
There you go.
The problem was you should have found like something to satiate both needs.
I shouldn't I? Put the two
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
It just was not on.
Now, one of the things that happened last week, Stephen, was a discussion around the Lubinskas affair, which was a
This
matter
starring
of...
Frank Sinatra, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spy Thrill from the 1940s.
Who else was there? Dean Martin.
Dean Martin,
Sammy
yeah.
Davis Jr.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Vonnie
The other
Sampson.
guy. There's always
Yeah,
that other
probably-
guy.
Possibly Cary Grant and Alfred Hitchcock might have got involved as well. But anyway, go on.
And we won't go into huge detail now, but we've got former Manly ringer Seagull Greg Cross, who played in 78-79 for Manly, joining us next week.
Yeah.
His brother and father both have rugby league stories. He got in touch through the Fire Up Facebook page, which we want you to do. We want you to get your friends to subscribe to the podcast, please.
Are you talking to me and Stephen?
I'm talking to the camera.
Oh, the camera, sorry. Yeah.
And that led to some discussion. We had Craig Meyer give us a particular view of what happened. This was around Western Suburbs being docked a competition point because Lubinskas, who had played in reserve grade, played illegal in first grade.
Right.
And then Rick Yabsley,
Who noticed that? Why would you notice that?
Bullfrog Moore.
There
you go.
There you go.
And then Rick Yabsley got online. The culmination of this is we'll have Greg in the studio to take us through,
Yeah.
and we may well speak to Mick Lubinskas about that. So we're really looking
He
forward to that.
exists still.
The Mick Lubinskas.
The real
The real-
Lubinskas.
Yes.
Right. And, okay, so are we going to ask the question about when you felt most dudded?
Yes.
Is that right?
Well, I thought what we do today is that Pat's got a segment for us, which are the expressions. Pat, if you want to describe what your segment is.
Well, I'm a bit of a bit of a train spotter with football, so I'll notice things that like
Specifically
little
05 to 08 with
Yeah.
a bit of a gap in 06.
so little technical stuff that I'll notice that maybe some other people didn't notice.
Yeah.
Like for instance, did you know Cameron Smith has the body of an accountant?
You noticed that?
Goodness. Have you
And how
noticed,
does he not have any injuries?
have you noticed anything about, for instance, I don't know, let's just pull a random name, Damien Cook.
Damien Cook, I think he was
Former
a beach
beach
sprinter.
sprinter?
Beach sprinter.
And you know it's a game of two halves?
It's a game the best one is when there's a half of two halves.
Yes.
We had one of those.
I've been looking for a label for the Canterbury Bankstown Club. What would you describe them as?
Let's not go down the dirty path.
You're
mention
looking for
Corsaro.
family club, maybe?
Family Club. That's a great insight.
And gee,
Family club.
they've had trouble upholding that, haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
By the way,
I don't know about your family, but mine.
Yeah, pretty close, is it?
Mine's
Yeah.
pretty happy to have the
what
boy
else have
now
you got
again.
for us, Pat?
On family, the Travojevic boys,
Yes.
they're really good guys.
Are they?
And
Are they?
yeah,
Off
and
the field?
and they volunteer at junior football games.
Is that right?
Yeah, and Dennis, you're a Canberra fan.
Oh, hang on, Pat. Before you get off the
certain about that?
Travojeviches, the third Travojevic is better
Oh,
than the other.
Ben Travojevic, yes.
They haven't the Morris kiddies got more kiddies?
That's like the third good one.
Yeah, that's right.
It's,
The third
He's not
triplet.
Lord, he's Duke.
Is there a third triplet? That'd be quite a medical miracle.
What else?
Dennis, yeah, you're a Raiders fan. Chris, you're a Balmain fan. Do you know they played in the '89 grand final?
Is that right?
Nonsense.
Yeah. Went to extra time, actually.
Wow.
By the way, this is something you guys have never considered. If there's a bad call, like for example, poor old Bailey Simonson being sin-binned off the bunker call against the Storms 2 weeks ago, could you imagine if that happened in a grand final?
Can you imagine?
Imagine that. in the grand
One of
final.
those silly things decided a grand final. Imagine that.
One day it'll
Imagine
happen.
that.
One day it'll happen.
Speaking of,
So how are they contributing? People are asked to contribute?
so what we want people to
Yeah.
say, what are the expressions? Get on
Yeah.
Facebook, message us, or on Twitter. what are the things that the concepts that should be retired from rugby league? Like
So these are beyond cliches.
Yeah.
So we don't want celebratory great cliches. We want the ones that are duds
They've
and
got to
get
go.
them out the door. Gotta
Like,
go,
I want
yeah.
to be able to do a broadcast about Billy Slater and not reference the fact that he was a
Track
former
work
jockey.
yeah.
Well,
Right.
when? For who for?
I want to be able to talk about
Yeah.
rugby league and Papua New Guinea without pointing out
No.
that it's the national
No,
sport
it's
of
not.
Papua New Guinea.
Enjoy a Benji Marshall game without knowing that he won a grand final.
Yeah.
I
And that
with the
pass,
foot
Chris.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what happens to Anthony Seibold and not say right now he has the full support of the board and have to go on and say, but whenever you have the full support of the board, you don't
gotta
have
get
the
done.
full support of the board.
Well, has he lost the dressing room though?
Has he lost the dressing room?
I don't want to hear the word resilience ever again because every club is trying to appropriate resilience.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear a red-haired rugby league player described as a
Firebrand.
Or didn't it used to be Bluey?
That's
Way
much
back in the
easier.
day?
blood nut ginger
Bring it back.
sauce.
Bluey's okay. On the sauce, yeah.
And finally, for me, I never, ever want to hear again in a discussion about our great game if South Sydney's going good.
The game
game's
is
going good.
Or what about never before, never again?
Well,
Certainly retire that one.
no, I'm happy to hear that because it never will happen again.
It won't happen again. Exactly, Chris.
There's a little bit of a cheat for those cliches if they're on a Matt Nable promo. Then it's time to.
Oh, poor Matt.
Boy.
So I think we're almost there, aren't we, Stephen? What have you got?
I think so. I'm looking here. Oh, of course, we were celebrating Men of League, a fundraiser on the weekend.
Ah, yes.
Best try celebrations. And there were a few interesting ones, wasn't there? There was...
Was a controversial one.
We did discuss this a few weeks ago that the Raiders with the bowling ball and the 10 pins and the
Yeah.
Is that a Mark McClendon
It was
deal?
Mark McClendon.
There's
Yeah.
a scratch in the record.
So one of the betting organisations is saying they'll donate to Men of League if they can reinstitute the post-try celebrations, which is a thing that at various times rule makers try to extinguish, right?
Yep.
Now, amongst the images, apart from Billy Burns's tackle and Josh Morris's acting performance, we've seen some images that are the grassroots of the celebrations. There was the Ponga Pierce smooch.
Oh,
Yes,
that was beautiful.
Yeah.
I missed that one. Tell me about that one.
Just a little
smooch.
Just a little kiss
Straight after.
on the cheek after Ponga had scored one of his solo efforts.
Corey Norman, they
It was not very good for COVID, but they're
No,
in the
but
bubble.
clean.
They're in the
fine.
bubble.
They're clean.
They're in the clean
And Corey
zone.
Norman understood the clean versus dirty
So
spaces.
he didn't jump the fence at the ironically named Wynn Stadium.
Piggy
He just
Riddell
stayed within
famously
there.
jumped the fence and then applauded himself.
There was some
And again,
debate
a
on the
statement
Sunday.
of the fact there was no one there because Wynn Stadium was so ironically named.
There was some cynical debate on the Sunday Footy show that Corey Norman wouldn't have processed that and it was just coincidence that he didn't jump the fence.
It could well have been, Chris. I would.
But it always worries me. Like every time I see that Piggy Riddell, for those who haven't seen it, he jumps the fence and claps himself.
I think
as
he's
a
gonna
member of the
trip.
crowd. You just think he's
Yeah,
going to break
he
Every
looks like he's
time,
gonna
I'm like,
go.
this is the time where he's going to mess it up.
Which reminds me of Bobcat Ryan scoring a try in his last game for Canterbury, and they had a Bobcat at the field.
Right.
As in the not the wild animal, but the tool.
I'm
the
trying to
driving
think
thing.
of the
he
big-
tried to climb up it, and
And he slid on it,
Yeah.
and it was just an ACL waiting to happen.
yeah,
Wasn't
because
it?
he's got boots. Boots aren't designed to
Well,
climb
he-
up metal
He
surfaces.
doesn't need his ACL anymore.
Who was the big
It's the one
chunky
game where you
coaching?
can do it.
Is he-
There's the one game where he can do his
He's
ACL,
gonna
his
have-
last game.
Well, isn't he coaching West Newcastle?
He will be.
He
The
probably
big
need an
chunky
ACL to
Canterbury
coach.
player who did the moonwalk after he scored a try.
Oh, that'd be Greg Eastwood, wouldn't it?
Greg Eastwood, yeah, straight
Yeah.
after Michael Jackson
Finished-
died in honour of.
Finished with the Jets.
There you go.
There was a Mark Riddell one against the Bulldogs where he did the dance from that movie,
the little shuffle.
the Show Me the Money movie.
yeah.
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire did the dance from that.
yeah.
Luciano Leilua, and by the way, we talk about the Stefano Utokumanu, poor old Marcello Montoya, who dropped the ball cold against your guys to lead
He
to
was-
Corey
couldn't
strike.
see.
He was double vision because he'd been knocked in a tackle.
And
he-
St George spotted that.
Yeah.
Should he
Yeah,
not
that's
have been
right.
off? Should he not have been off the field?
Well, it was
Yes.
two tackles previously, and it was extra time, and they weren't
on the
thinking
run.
clearly. And he caught the ball; it was just the wrong ball.
Can I just put two together? And I think that this is greatest celebrations, and when you were dudded most of all was that idiot, the brick with eyes. One of your blokes.
Oh,
right?
Lazo.
Wasn't that
When-
beautiful?
I mean,
The
there was
cartwheel.
Nathan Blacklock, the greatest celebratory player ever. I think. I always waited for that sort of thing he
the
used to
double
do.
salt with chocolate.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Tinger, yeah.
And there was the brick with eyes
sticking it
after
to you.
cheating his way to a grand final.
Sticking it to you.
In 99, sticking it to us poorly by doing a cartwheel, which he couldn't even accomplish.
Guess what, Stephen?
That really...
I was there.
I loved it.
Luciano Leilua, who scored a brace, he did the rock the baby on the second try because it's not natural yet. They're not thinking first try.
Yeah.
But I thought the most interesting one, and I'm just starting. We talked last week about the most evil ending in rugby league. The draw himself, Mr. Gigantism, Nathan Cleary scores, and then rifle shoots in the sky. I think he was expressing his solidarity with the NRA.
Maybe
it's One Nation, perhaps.
Maybe One Nation style. He's trying to get funding off
Fishers
FIFA.
Party.
Fishers and shooters, yeah.
He's trying to get funding.
I don't know. Watch him. Worries me.
Is he a trumper?
There is, of course, the issue with post-try celebrations is, Corey Norman, it was the end of the game. They'd won. You can afford to celebrate.
Yes.
Luciano against the Broncos.
Premature.
They'd won the game. No, they'd won the game before they even started. Like and as I said to you before, there was no defence in that game. The Tigers didn't need it. The Broncos didn't have it. So Luciano was fine. The risk is that you get to the Chris Sandow.
Oh,
You celebrate either before you've scored or you celebrate a try. Or you've got I don't know if you remember the old game from the 19th century rugby, the famous Matt Dunning kicked a field goal to win a game, but they actually needed to win by 5 points to get into the finals.
Didn't GI do that?
He kicked a field. No, GI missed the field goal, but Matt Dunning kicked the field goal. Went,
He not only didn't get it, he missed the field goal.
and then realised that they'd won the game but lost. That they weren't going to be the finals.
Did you know that Brian Fletcher did try celebration once?
Yes. So let us know.
Queensland up.
Let us know on Facebook where you'll see. I've juxtaposed the image of Nathan Cleary with Marv from Sin City. And as one of our listeners pointed out, he also looks like Max Headroom. But if you go onto our Facebook
He
page...
started off as the little boy from Mask, right?
Yes, that's right.
And now he's morphed into something else.
That's right. Go on our Facebook page or our Twitter and say, what's the expression you want retired from rugby league? And we'll pick over those entrails next week when we have Greg Cross on the show.
Subscribe.
And we won't
Please subscribe.
And we won't accept Fire Up.
No.
Or I hate rugby league, but I love Fire Up.
No, we'll accept that. That's not going to be...
The judges won't accept
We're keeping that. We're keeping that.
Well, pretty soon that'll be the only one.
That'll be it.
On that note, we say farewell.
Quiet Australians.
Let's see what rugby league delivers this next coming week.
Cause I'm all fired up and lonesome. I got a chip on my shoulder, I'm acting just a little too tough.